Hey, good morning. It's Wednesday. We are here. We are live.
Which character was that again? Hey.
Hey. It's Yogi.
Was it? It was Yogi, but not Foghorn Leghorn. He used to go, I'll say boy, I'll say boy, I'll say boy, I'll say boy.
I'll say hey boy.
I'll say hey boy.
What was that Bill Cosby character?
Rapey.
You mean the date raper? Wasn't that his character?
Bill Cosby's character was Bill Cosby. He played daytime Bill Cosby on TV, not nighttime Bill Cosby.
Not Fat Albert.
Fat Albert. Didn't Fat Albert say hey?
Hey. Might have done.
But I was immediately thinking about Yogi Bear, because he'd go, hey, Bubba, what are you doing? And we're gonna go into the forest.
We're gonna go out to look at a forest fire today.
That's right.
What a random thing to think about.
In the wake of like Dr. Seuss being cancelled the other day, they decided that Pepe Le Pew. I don't know if you remember Pepe Le Pew is that skunk.
The skunk that wanted to shag the little cat always.
The skunk would shag anything, and they've decided.
No, he was madly in love with the black female cat. He just wanted to be left alone.
Yes, and then they've now accused him of being responsible for rape culture. So Pepe Le Pew is cancelled.
Well, I can live without Pepe Le Pew. I'm like, leave me Metallica and I'm fine.
Yeah.
One of these days, Gord.
One of these days they'll cancel Metallica. Watch. Coming.
It's all right. I'm going to enjoy them as much as I can while I'm still allowed to, because when that happens, you won't be allowed to think the music from 1986 was still good anymore because of like what might have happened last year with the secretary. But so far on the official record, those dudes are looking pretty squeaky. They're just all about donating millions of dollars everywhere they play shows to like people, to poor people. That's kind of what they do these days. Let's go play a show and give money to the poor people. Okay, where haven't we been this year? Let's go there.
When you cancel, they won't even care. I was thinking of a song a few weeks ago that I hadn't heard in a while. I go into my music platform, I look for it, and it's not there. And I thought,
nobody cares if you cancel.
For it again. And then I remembered that the song was produced by R. Kelly. It's not even sung by Jennifer Hudson sung it. R. Kelly produced it. And because it's produced by R. Kelly, it was taken off Apple Music because, Apple says R. Kelly's still cancelled.
Yeah, you can't find it.
No.
Oh. Well, you see, I mean, like as someone who likes collecting things that are rare, I would want to have that. So now, even though I don't have children to read Dr. Seuss to, I kind of almost want to go out and buy them. Apparently, the Dr. Seuss books went up in value. Like you cannot believe.
Are they literally not selling them? Or is it just like a controversy about one or two of his old books that they're going to retire? I keep hearing, I don't hear much about it, but what I do hear is conflicting. Some people are like, it's blowing over, and other people are, it's a big deal.
There are 6 books that they've decided to pull from the shelves.
Out of about 50 or 60, I actually completely forget. I read his biography, but...
I mean, those 6 books are now the most expensive books on the internet right now. You can't find them.
I have them.
eBay won't list them. Nobody will. So I almost just want them now, even though I don't really, I don't read children's books anymore. And I did like Dr. Seuss when I was a kid, but I'm not hugely passionate about this. It's just,
you do like kids' books, Gareth. I've seen your face light up when Act 3 of a children's book comes up and you don't know what's going to happen. And you're like, where's this going?
I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam. I am.
Oh.
I do not like them in a boat. I do not like your stanky scrote.
That's how it goes, I think. Just quickly.
I will not eat them at a braai. I will not eat them with a guy. I will not eat them score a try. I will not eat them, Sam and I, or something.
Okay, then.
So, just a quick thing. Yesterday we said we're going to try an experiment as our one thing for the week. And our experiment was that we were going to influence our dreams. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
My dreams.
Well, we were going to think about 3 things because Freud always said that you could make your dreams happen as a result of thinking about them consciously.
Well, if that was the case, I'd be boning supermodels every night of my life. Like the amount of sex thinking that would tally up, I just only dream about that. I'd actually deliberately like try to watch innocent shit so that I could have less sex dreams.
Well, we tried yesterday. So the three things that I said we must think about, and then you might have dreams about them, were airplanes, hedgehogs, and midgets. And I didn't dream about any of the three of them.
No, I didn't even have a dream last night.
If I did, I can't remember what it was, but I know that it didn't involve midgets or airplanes or hedgehogs. So obviously that did not work. I'm sorry about that. Not for me, it didn't. Dud says it didn't work for him either. So that was a dud.
I'd be interested if anybody did. This is amazing scientific research.
Yeah, if you somehow managed to have that dream, I'd love to hear about it. Nico says he dreamt he was riding in a tuk-tuk across with a locomotive, and a black rhino and a white rhino were interacting with each other. Also running around in a shopping center and buying nothing. Well, you've got to lay off the drugs a little bit, Nico, you know.
That's what dreams are. They're like your brain is filing memories according to sensory input that you're not necessarily aware of. Like, so smell is very close physically to where memory is processed, and it also is like a powerful memory association. So you might have something happened, okay? Like I met a guy who was wearing like a bizarre purple outfit in real life. And there was a song playing on the radio by Natalie Imbruglia. And when I first heard that song, I kissed some girl when I was 15. So now you're going to have that song, the girl from when you were 15, and purple associating together. And then there was a smell you weren't aware of because it was next to a Sweets from Heaven of popcorn. Yeah. And so a memory from that you don't know is your first happy experience of popcorn when you didn't choke on it the second time you tried it when you were 5. And so you have now a memory of watching The Jungle Book with your dad while you're with the girl that you kissed while R. Kelly's playing on the radio. Bad example. Natalie Imbruglia. And so you're building a purple go-kart on Ellis Park with your standard 3 PT teacher because those smells and sounds and stuff are all associating. So your brain is filing for long-term memories alongside the smells and sounds and shit you didn't know are associated. So it mixes things together that you don't logically associate.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that I remember from all the stuff that you've just listed now is that smell has the strongest influence on you subconsciously of all the senses. So if you that's how, you know, if you smell the perfume of some girl that you thought was the most beautiful woman in the world when you were like 20, you still associate that smell with you. Have this incredible memory for smells.
And you don't know where it comes from. So like you just literally the thing that happened to you yesterday that your brain is now storing in long-term memory so it can be recalled as needed. And this is like one prevalent theory, but it's a pretty prevalent theory and it makes perfect sense to me. So you don't know that bad meeting you had where you got super stressed yesterday, that the person was wearing an aftershave that you first smelt on a PT teacher when you were 7. So now you're like doing jumping jacks with the person who you had a crap meeting with yesterday as part of the X-Men. It's all to do with smells and sounds and stuff.
Well. We've put up a poll.
He goes, well, because when Gord explains things like that, sometimes it's really hard to follow.
I was like, no, Gord, you're supposed to say some stupid shit, and we meant to all laugh merrily at your expense.
Actually, no, I was deciding whether or not to admit how sad I am because I knew how strong smell is in activating things, and I once bought an ex's cologne. Because it was...
That's a bad one.
I'm going to start crying. Yes. I bought an ex's cologne after we were done, but it just reminds me of him.
You bought it to be reminded, or you bought it not thinking it would remind you, and then it did?
No, I bought it exactly knowing that it will remind me. And that's just one whiff of that thing will just bring back every...
Well, I also, Morningstar had a particular one that she would wear, and I walked past Edgar's Red Square, like in the height of having my soul ripped out, and I was like just going to Woolworths at Nickelway Centre in Bryanston from the other side where the Food Lovers is, if anyone's been there. And I walked past the Red Square or whatever the little perfume shop is, and I was just like, like if you're walking along and somebody from the side just claps you with a baseball bat unawares.
Yes.
I was hit by emotion like that, like someone waiting for me to walk past, just baseball batting me in the head with feelings. But it's good. You got to get that shit out. You got to cleanse and exorcise a shitty person from your life. Otherwise, you spend the rest of your life hating Barcelona, and that no one deserves that.
It is such a loserish thing. It's been at least 3 years. I still have this box here. And most recently, I probably smelled it like,
get rid of your ex's stuff. Get rid of it. Exorcise your ex.
Yes.
You need to be exorcised here. You either got to track this lucky young man down and make things right, or put the box floating off into the river and light it.
No, it should be more dramatic than that. Like just attach it to a firework and just light it up or something.
And then you can listen to that song while you look at firework, whatever.
We've done a poll, and so far 100% of the people who were asked this question, did you have a dream about hedgehogs, airplanes, or midgets last night? 100% of people said no. So I'm sorry, we could not control our dreams. Freud was wrong.
and the poll makes everything very official. So now we can even release this statement to say, 100% of the people did not have a dream about this.
Yeah, but now someone's going to pop on. It might even be me and immediately vote the other way just to screw
up. You're such a shit stirrer.
I think you need more than like one day of people sort of just giving it a little bit of thought before the next day's show. I think you need to meditate. You got to meditate on your shit.
You want to try something else?
No, if meditating on something regularly would make it happen in your dreams, I'm pretty sure I know what my dreams would be like.
Well, Lenice says, I have a weird recurring dream since I've been a small kid of real bunnies on a conveyor belt in a massive factory. But Lenice,
doing what? Being made, being destroyed, just chilling, and that's where they live?
Lenice, there is actually a factory where they destroy bunnies.
What? No, I don't want to know that, Gareth. I woke up this morning, middle of the night, not knowing that, and now you've told me that, and I'm sad.
Denise,
thanks for ruining things.
It's called the Bunny Destruction Center, and it's
it can't be called that. This has to be from a cartoon, and your brain has incorrectly filed it next to your most traumatic smells.
Bunny.
The Bunny Destruction Center. I'm pretty sure you imagined that, GC.
Bunny Destruction Center for excess bunnies.
So that's where Friesland and Gandalf went.
Yeah. That's it.
Please, that can't be a real place. Please, someone who's capable of thought, Google the Bunny Destruction Center for excess bunnies.
The part that Lenice saw in her dream is just the gathering and it's the gathering center. Okay, and then the next door factory is the stomping center.
I'm trying so hard not to laugh. I'll wake the neighbors.
They have a large machine that squashes it, stomps them.
Nico asked Gordo, when did you learn circular breathing? You should try play the didgeridoo. Yeah, it translates into certain special talents that are not fit for mentioning on YouTube, but it does come in handy.
Oh my God. All right, so we've learned quite a lot this morning, and it's only 6:20. So can I just
finally look as high as I am?
I was watching the Harry Meghan interview on Monday night, and in between, because I haven't watched live TV in such a long time, I saw some ads. Okay, so this is on what, Mnet 101 or whatever. And
yeah,
that's where the channel where they teach you how to Mnet.
Correct.
What?
You sit down and the lecture starts right at the beginning. What is Mnet?
Oh, I got it.
define
Needed
MF.
a bit of explaining,
Yes,
but I'm
defining
back. Okay,
MF.
got it.
Yeah. How to use the remote control.
Yeah, what is a remote control?
After emulating. So I watched this. There was this ad for a ridiculously childish adult game show, and Ellen DeGeneres is the host. But it's like they're like slime people, or they make them go through a maze, or
so American, basically. It was Lank American.
It's so
he said
dumb,
without any hatred, just love and a cultural observation. That stuff's beloved by Americans.
Ellen DeGeneres is hosting it, and it just looks like the dumbest show ever. And I'm wondering what's going on.
I don't care about her politics or her
Is she trying to rehabilitate her reputation by doing a really dumb adults game show, or what's the story?
I don't revel in anybody like losing their career, and I don't enjoy or follow most of this cancel stuff. So I don't care about her politics or her, her being like a very public facing gay woman or any of that's not the factor in my not liking her. I just find her painfully annoying on air, and I always have. Even when she was everybody's sweetheart and apparently the nicest person in the world, I was like, I can't bear how contrived and over the top she is. So my issues with her have always just been about not enjoying her entertainment content. And, like anyone, you just then turn it off and don't watch it. But hearing that she's like a complete arse and now doing a crap game show, bummer for her.
No, I think you need to lighten up a little. Ellen, of course, has the daytime talk show, and within the talk show, she does game segments, and those just became so popular in and of itself that they created a whole new second show. So this is now Ellen's Game of Games, or Ellen's Game Nights, I think. Yeah, I think it's called Ellen's Games of Games. So it was created even before this whole workplace harassment thing.
So it's always just been crap.
It looks not crap. Lighten up, guys. When do adults get to have slime and get to?
I'll let you know after the show, Sia.
Girl, bye.
But our friend Mike says, "Are you censoring your content now because you are on YouTube, or avoiding subjects because you're on YouTube now?" No. Yeah. Then
thank you for answering that.
Thank you for asking, Mike.
That Piers Morgan stomped out of Good Morning Britain yesterday. I watched that clip.
I was about to read that comment out loud and read it completely wrong.
Why? What were you going to say?
Yeah, we was talking about stomping bunnies, and I was going way down a tangent. But yeah, Piers Morgan is also one of those people who I just find painful to watch. Controversy around him I don't care about. I just don't enjoy him talking. Like people are entitled to not enjoy me.
I mean, I've never really liked Piers Morgan, and that's why it irks me a little bit when people say to me, you're a bit like Piers Morgan. And I think anybody who's got opinions or is controversial, you get compared to like a certain coterie of people, and they're predictable names, and one of them is Piers Morgan, because Piers Morgan doesn't really hold back on what he thinks of things, and he's been extremely vocal about his feelings on Harry and Meghan. Okay. In fact, so vocal that I watched a clip of his on YouTube must have been Monday afternoon, because I think he already had seen the interview on Sunday. And I watched this, and he's putting on a show. He's definitely, he's hamming it up almost. He definitely doesn't like Meghan. And there's a personal issue the two of them had. He and Meghan were like bosom buddies for a little while. And then she just dumped him. And he's so bitter about it that must be the main reason that he hates her. But there's a whole bunch of other reasons that he says he has as well. Either way, he's not the best source for objective Meghan stuff. If you're actually looking for objective Meghan stuff. So Piers Morgan is very uptight about a lot of things, and he's extremely emotional about a lot of things. Anyway, on Good Morning Britain, which is the show that he does, one of his co-hosts, a guy called Alex, came on and said,
the weatherman of all people.
The weatherman. He's like, Piers, you're being very unkind. I think these are two people who suffer from mental health issues or whatever. And Piers just got up and walked off the set and said, I don't need this. I don't need this. I'm out of here. Bye-bye. I'm not going to be called names by my colleagues. And he just never came back to the show. he left that morning, and he's apparently resigned from the show.
They released the shortest statement I've seen in a very long time.
Does it just say no?
I won't even qualify it as 2 paragraphs. It's essentially very long 2 sentences that says, he's not coming back onto the show.
Yeah. So look, I mean, that's the Piers Morgan story, but I would.
Yeah,
still,
I just don't. Again,
I'd have him on. I think he's very entertaining. He's got an interesting take on some things. I don't agree with all the things he says, and I don't disagree with all the things he says. I found his point of view on this Meghan thing to be pretty much spot on, but he's too emotional about her for me to take him seriously. So you got to make your own mind up, and nobody can do that.
I only know him from the world of football. Like, I don't follow anything to do with his political stuff, but I know it's like divisive and it causes like controversy. But he, as a peripheral thing, uses his platform to support Arsenal. And he's one of those football fans who, when their team is empirically crap, like, I like Arsenal. They're just as crap now as they've been in ever. They're like badly crap. Man United have been a bit crap. Arsenal have been significantly worse. It's just, you can't argue that like your team's better when the results show they're always losing. So he's one of those like can't tolerate the idea of Arsenal not being right or defensible or some excuse, and every other team is crap. He's one of those painful football fans that just won't, like, it's so biased, it's incredible. So I think if this is your temperature and how aggressive you are and how blustery and opinionated you are about wrong empirical football, I don't want to know about your political opinion either.
That's exactly why I think a lot of it is an act that he's putting on.
Completely.
Here's the clip. So Alex Beresford is the guy talking. He's from Good Morning Britain. And he says, Piers is wrong, and this is what he has to say about Meghan. And then Piers gets up and walks out. I'll try and narrate it as it happens.
In this situation, he walked behind his mother's coffin at a tender age in front of the globe. That is going to shape a young boy for the rest of his life. So I think that we need to...
I just want to say to this Alex Beresford that Harry's almost 40 years old now. When do you stop being a young boy who can blame his past for everything and make the world responsible for his feelings rather than make him an accountable adult? Just a question, Alex.
All take a step back. And I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. You've made it so clear a number of times on this program. A number of times.
By the way, at this point, they pan to Piers, who's sitting there, steam coming out of his ears.
And I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle, or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
Okay, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
Do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can trash me, maybe not my
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do
this. This is absolutely diabolical behaviour. I'm sorry, but Piers spouts off on a regular basis, and we all have to sit there and listen. 6:30 to 7 o'clock yesterday was incredibly hard to watch.
Where? Anyways, he stormed off. Where?
No,
well, everyone's had their say. No, everyone's had their say, and so now we both know that those two don't like each other, and I hope they sort out their work conflict like the rest of us have to from time to time.
I just want to gag at all of them. Like the fact that we have to... why do we have so many opinionistas in the world? The irony that I'm giving my opinion, complaining about other people giving their opinion. But just give me the weather, give me the news, tell me, what I have to look forward to in the day, and then I move on. That is what you are there for, the news. And I don't need to hear your remarks on all of this, firstly. Secondly, with Piers, the irony that you get to scream your opinion from the rooftops and talk about the fact that you just don't understand how, just from a few headlines about, writing about your marriage, why Harry and Meghan would be so sensitive. Piers, you get one comment about how sensitive you were, and then what do? You storm off and you resign. Come on, pull up your knickers and calm down. Thirdly, all of these people are just disingenuous. He knows that he'll get the views. You know what? He'll go on and he'll sign another deal with ITV. He'll do another spin of one-on-one interviews, and then he'll write a book about it. We're all being played, and it's sickening.
We're all guilty of doing this sometimes, even now.
was just looking for the book now. I remember reading, because I had to review it for something, Piers Morgan's book, God Bless America, which is really just name dropping from beginning to end. It was one of the worst books I've ever read. And I liked, Piers Morgan. I used to read him in GQ when that was a magazine, and he was probably their flagship writer. And he wrote brilliant stuff. I mean, really incisive, clever, well thought through, well researched articles. He was a great writer. So that's where I knew him from, and I liked him. And when I read
one of the best columns about flagships I've ever read. Sorry, I was committed. I've been my train of thought has been rattled by Mike figuring out our conspiracy, and now he's just cornered me in the comments. This is the second time someone on your show said shouldn't say this on YouTube. Guys, we were supposed to be careful about this.
Yeah. We've been rumbled by
Mike has got us. And we shouldn't even be saying this on YouTube.
So I read this book of his, which was rubbish. And ever since then, I got the very distinct feeling that Piers really likes celebrity. And he enjoyed his first stint on America's Got Talent. And it was great for him to meet all these famous people. And he now lists, he's probably got a ton of famous people on his phone, and that makes him happy. So we can see what Piers' thing is here. And when he met Meghan Markle, and they went to a pub down the road from his house, and they got on famously, he obviously thought, this girl's my friend.
Okay, so they were pals.
They were pals. I think he's too old for her, and he's certainly not attractive to her. And she
so you think it's got something to do with that? So... exactly. The whole story is her relationship.
I think Piers likes being famous, and I think he's very good at churning up public support or anger, and he won't go anywhere. But I don't believe everything he says, just like I don't believe everything Meghan says. Anyway,
all of these people, there's nothing to.
The channel is not inflicted on you. Like the colleague freaking out because he has to listen to it every day, whether it's a woke thing or just the person's reached the end of their patience. I don't know. I can't speak on that situation. But in terms of like people, we're in a realm of people listening when they don't like it so they can complain, or not listening to it, having an opinion from running into it here and there in their life, and then hating it for that. So people are allowed to think he's a dick. Like, let him be a dick. Some people probably love it, As long as he doesn't do anything like genuinely cancel worthy, and he's just an opinionated dick with opinionated dick opinions, let him do that and tune out if you don't dig it.
Who even knows what is
our dick opinions are not for everyone.
Worthy.
No, what you just said is so important. Like, you don't have to watch anything. No one is putting a gun to your head and forcing you to watch Piers Morgan, which is why it's stupid to try and cancel him. Just switch to another show. Then you win on two fronts. First of all, you don't make yourself miserable by watching something you don't want to watch.
Or being furious about something you can't affect and that doesn't actually harm you unless you choose to look at it.
The second thing you get is that you decrease his ratings. So if you really want to win, don't watch. Because now the show is going to go like this, right? Because he's the opinion guy. He's the main anchor. The show's going to go like this. It's like if you took any other of the major anchors off any show. They go like this, and then the ratings dip, and then they go, we need Piers back. And then they have to get him back to the raise.
Well, that's another thing. It's all PR. So, this isn't, to my knowledge, from what I've gathered on the show so far, it's not about, some terrible behavior of his or some, crime thing that he did or some sexual harassment. It's just being a dick, and a staff member on a live TV show freaked out. So that's newsworthy. I mean, it's a major broadcast. The dude walked off. But, whether he's a good or bad person, who cares? If you think he's interesting, listen to it.
They're going to rehire him, and then he's going to earn more money, or he's going to go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else, like on Amazon show, pull a Clarkson.
Correct. And
so
earn more money.
I found the two-line statement released from ITV, the channel that broadcasts Good Morning Britain, says, following discussions with ITV, Piers Morgan has decided now is the time to leave Good Morning Britain. ITV has accepted this decision and has nothing further to add.
Well, that's cool. He's decided to quit. We've accepted it. Cool.
They have nothing further to add.
Not so don't call us with any more questions. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for Piers and X amount of years. Nope, just full stop.
Thank you for the years. Thank you for the Piers. And thank you also for the Morgan. In the morning.
In the Morgan, yeah. All right, so let's look at some stories in the news this week. South Africa's economy recorded its first annual contraction in 11 years in 2020 due to the pandemic, but extended its rebound in the last quarter. So what this all means, here's the headline. The South African economy has hit an 11-year low in 2020, which means this is the lowest it has been in that many years, 11 years. It's a frightening number, and this is not unpredictable.
When it says they recorded a low.
This is not a result of the pandemic. This is a result of a lockdown. Let's call it what it is. I'm sorry, it's not the pandemic. People get this wrong. The coronavirus didn't suddenly climb into the economy and start making, businesses sick. When you shut businesses down and you don't allow them to trade, that hits them. That's what makes them sick.
But when you said I just wanted to get the opening point again. They recorded their first downturn, or that we're the lowest in 11 years?
Annual contraction. For the whole year, the economy contracted in 11 years. It's the first time that's happened due to, they say, the pandemic. I'm saying lockdowns, but it extended its rebound in the last quarter. So the country's GDP shrank by 7% in 2020, compared with a 0.2% expansion a year earlier, and before that, even better expansion. So our economy's been going like this and this and this and this.
Yeah,
but it's been expanding. Well, I mean, it's been expanding very, very slowly instead of the fast way that it should have, compared especially to our African neighbors. And then in 2020, it started to shrink.
You see, when my brain immediately goes, we've had the shittest economic situation in 11 years. I'm like, but we're not 26 rand to the pound. We've been that before. So it's more about the size now compared to the size a year ago, or the strength now compared to the strength a year ago, versus the shittest strength in 11 years.
The value of our currency is only one indicator of all of that.
That's why I'm ignorant about this stuff and have to ask questions.
That's why we're talking about actual GDP, gross domestic product. Okay. Then former Transnet CEO Brian Molefe was in front of the Zondo Commission. He keeps defending the repeated awarding of contracts to McKinsey. Now, they're a consulting firm. Okay. He says it comes down to something called confidential confinement, whatever the hell that is. He told the State Capture Commission on Tuesday that he believed a new contractor would have to develop new models or use McKinsey's existing ones. You see, all these consulting firms make a ton of money out of South African parastatals. Do you know why? Because those people who are running the parastatals do not know how to manage a business. So they have to pay not only themselves to not run the business, but pay a consultant to run the business for them, or to tell them how to run the business, as the case may be. McKinsey is one of the world's biggest consulting firms. What they do is they go around and they tell you how your business could run better. They get involved in everything from HR to, the balance sheet to issues around values in the company. And McKinsey is one of the most it's got a good reputation, but even they are well known for coming in for businesses that desperately need help and are being run badly, in order to help the people who run them badly run them a little better. Now, in all the cases they've been involved in parastatals in South Africa, it seems to me unlikely that we can give any of these consulting firms massive kudos for having done anything right, because even if they'd given the right advice to the people who run these companies, the window dressing that we put in because of politics in South Africa, these ANC cadres who are deployed to run these companies, even if they were told how to do things better, they didn't listen, right? So we end up with people like Brian Molefe in charge at Transnet, and McKinsey comes in and they say, listen, Mr. Molefe, you have to stop all the other directors from taking money out of the till. And he goes, that's very good advice. Thank you, McKinsey. And then he also helps himself to money out of the till. So what's the point of McKinsey? You got it?
Right.
Yes. So they have a good advice source that they are ignoring.
Well, yeah. And sometimes maybe the advice isn't the best because they are a consulting firm. So sometimes they don't know everything. They can't be expected to. Anyway, it's just messy and it's stupid. And the whole reason
I just want one bullshit like contract.
We need these firms because we have such crap people in charge of companies like Transnet. If we had better people, we didn't have Brian Molefe, it would run better. Case in point, Andre de Ruyter at Eskom.
Yeah, I just want one sketchy contract. Like for 6 months, 9 months, I want like a ridiculous salary that can't be justified, and then to ignore calls for my resignation for another 6 to 12 months before I begrudgingly give it at the last second before there's criminal procedures. And like just 2 or 3% to skim off the top of something. I don't mind if it's publicly visible, as long as it's one of those publicly like, yes, I know, you know, whatever. I just want a little one or a short one.
For yourself.
One. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a lifelong thing. It doesn't have to be skimming money out of SAA. It doesn't have to be billions, just a few million. Like, I just want a small opportunity to be really corrupt. Yeah.
I'm sorry it hasn't happened for you.
I don't need a whole state entity, just like a medium-sized corporation.
You know, we've been in business at Cliff Central for 7 years in May, and we've never had any work from government. Surprise, surprise.
What are they going to ask you to do? Like, be nicer about them every single day?
You know, we could have helped them to set up like a GCIS podcast channel, government communication.
Are you being surprised Liverpool haven't asked me to do a channel for them yet?
But we haven't even tried to approach government because I don't believe they'll do any work with us because there's no way for us to give them kickbacks, and we're not going to be dishonest. So I'm afraid, like for me, the opportunity to get taxpayers' money is very, very low. And we must talk. You must remind me. We must talk about the SABC just now, because that's an interesting story. Anyway, Malusi Gigaba's estranged wife Norma has agreed to testify before the state capture inquiry. Ooh, it's falling apart for Malusi. She is going to, and I don't know if she's a great source. That's like getting Piers Morgan to testify against Meghan Markle.
Or on behalf of Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. She is going to detail visits she made with Malusi to the Gupta compound in Saxonwold. She says she'll testify in court papers she filed opposing the police minister's appeal against a judgment ruling her arrest unlawful. She says her arrest was orchestrated to remove evidence from her devices of Gigaba's corrupt relationship with the Guptas. So it's all getting very ugly and very messy with the Gigabas now that they are not together anymore. And Spain has extended a ban on UK, Brazil, and South Africa arrivals. You know, we're in the dog box internationally at the moment because of the South African variant of COVID-19. So it means you can't travel to many places in the world because we have this very virulent strain, supposedly, of coronavirus. So Spain has added us to their list. Sorry. Can't go there. Not allowed. Finally, 39 migrant boats off Tunisia. These are people who've been trying to get out of Tunisia and get to Europe. You know, if Europe is so evil and so nasty and so vicious and so cruel, and Europe is filled with people who are bigots and sexists and racists and homophobes and everything else, why is everybody in Africa trying to get to Europe? Why is everybody in Asia trying to get to Europe? It's just always a question worthy of answering. Anyway, these 39 migrants have unfortunately drowned off Tunisia because 2 boats capsized. So these are desperate people, right? They are people who just want to get away from a country that's been racked by all kinds of instability since the Arab Spring, which started in that part of the world. And that's more than 10 years ago now. These people were on their way across the Mediterranean, probably on makeshift little boats. And they're willing to take that chance because they're so unhappy in Tunisia. And they then lost 39 of them. Apparently, they saved 165 people. Oof. So it's a very ugly scenario.
That level of desperation to just try by all means, including take on the seas.
Yeah, very, very sad.
Yeah, I mean, imagine how desperate you have to be to get on a shitty makeshift, like overcrowded raft and hope for the best across a large body of water. Like, I'm not terrified of the sea, but when I go on boats and stuff, especially like out in Cape Town where it's very dark blue, deep water. And I look down and I'm like, what could be 5, 10, 20 meters below that? And one of my like biggest fears, seriously, in terms of ways to die, is to be like treading water or holding a log at deep sea. There's a movie about two divers, and we've actually discussed this, I think, a couple of years ago on the show. These two true story about these two divers there was a wrong head count on a scuba mission, and by the time the people realized they'd left them behind, and they just like died in like 2 days of trying to swim until someone fetched them, and that freaks me beyond out. So in order to say, okay, this, you know, tied together with rope pile of logs, and that big body of water is less terrifying to me than staying there, I say you let the people in.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one other thing. So the palace made a statement yesterday, which I thought was really interesting because it was very dignified and short and to the point. And what made me think of it was the ITV Piers Morgan thing. The palace had this to say, right? They issued a very short statement in response to Harry and Meghan being on Oprah. It just said, the following statement is issued by Buckingham Palace on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen. The whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary,
that's the line.
Yeah, they're taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately.
That's like saying, while it could all be bullshit and these people are known for talking some shit, we're still going to look into it, even though they're pretty sketchy.
Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much-loved family members. That's all. That's all they said. And you know what? It's just such a show of dignity and decency against what was a hit piece by Harry and Meghan.
I don't know. There was a bit of shade thrown there.
It was a whole forest. It wasn't just shade.
It was like one perfectly placed pin oak tree, just putting a little sliver of shade across the middle of everything.
Beautifully done. That is expertly done by the palace, and it just makes them both look like such little turds. Anyway, the SABC had to fire a whole bunch of managers. Yeah, you remember you told me that yesterday. So it was Tuso and Mamunta who actually were two people who were charged with fraud a long time ago. There was no evidence, so the case didn't go ahead. But they've been there at the SABC almost as long as the SABC. So that's done. There were a whole lot of other managers and marketing managers fired. And I don't think it's going to make any difference to the SABC. Mark my words, those stations will just carry on. But the funniest thing, right, is somebody sent me a screenshot of the article and they highlighted a thing from it, which is hilarious. It says in the article, let me just find it. According to the new structure, they're piling these stations together. So SAFM, Lotus FM, and Radio 2000 are all going to be put together in a structure called the Fortune Combo.
What?
Yes. Oh, Gord, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I sang the jingle, but it's not. The timing's bad now.
Radio
2000. Do you remember that?
Then they've got the Limpopo combo. They've got the Inland combo. And then they've got another one with Umhlobo and True FM. They're in the Eastern Cape combo.
I want the Limpopo combo. I don't care what's in it. It sounds like fun.
So
no, the Fortune combo still stands out to me.
Limpopo combo is going to have better stories.
So some idiot at the SABC is now putting all of these different stations into different.
So they ad packages.
Yeah, they're trying to sell them as bargain.
Yeah, buy an ad at the full price on one of our popular stations, and we'll give you shitty slots for free on our other stations.
Correct.
Oh, that's really bad. And then just the process or the structure of running one of their radio stations. I don't know how that will now look. If station managers, for example, are out of, I don't know what their plans are. I know I've heard a little whispers here and there of some people, some on-air people who are going to get let go because they can't, they just are too high for the station.
I've been let go for that before as well.
No, well,
I had to find a station where my highness was acceptable.
Their salary amounts is too high for the station, so the SABC can't afford them anymore. Wow, this is sad.
You know, I don't care what happens to the SABC. The only real friend I've still got there is Thabo Modisani. So as long as he's okay, I don't care if the whole place burns down. Honestly, it's just such a disgrace. And the fact that there are people who are doing work there, like, you know, this Tuso and Mamunta, who God knows how long they've been there, and everybody in all the various radio stations, whether I know them or I don't. It's embarrassing that they are being paid salaries, which are effectively just taxpayers' money, to do very, very average jobs. It's
the thing that irks me is that, like, it is a public service, right? Like, a large portion of the population doesn't have economic access to, like, streaming, uncapped internet, even like DSTV entry-level packages. Like, a lot of people can only have what's free, and that's paid for with tax money, and it's meant to provide a decent standard. And for a lot of years, the SABC did. Like, it wasn't as tit as Mnet. If you had that, you were fancy. And then I remember when MultiChoice got launched, I was like 14. But, you know, you still could, like, get by. I was a gigantic stoner in varsity and didn't have money as I first moved out of home for streaming TV. So it was PS2 and SABC. And that's why I have a giant Dragon Ball Z tattoo. They had Dragon Ball every day, and it was the best. You could watch Oprah. Like, I'm sure they still have some of those syndicated shows, but it really used to be not that bad. And now it's utter dog shit. And the people who are the most vulnerable have to suffer total dog shit television or nothing.
Yeah, that's how. Unfortunately, the poor end up sucking the hind tit every time.
The rest of us that can afford, like, privileged TV are not affected by it because we would never watch it anyway. Like, even if it was working like it should be, the paid options are better, but it shouldn't be dog shit.
I wonder how much, whether they've actually adjusted any salaries down because they're not making any money. I mean, if you listen to how few ads are playing on those channels, and again, this is not according to me because I haven't listened, but this is what I'm informed is the story. And by the way, I don't have any particular interest in this. This is stuff that people send me because they think I have an interest in it, and then I am interested because they told me about it. You know what I mean? It's like when you
keep getting told not to be upset about something until you go, I'm not fucking upset.
Exactly. You know, when there's an accident and then everybody's rubbernecking, and then you are irritated because you don't want to rubberneck and you want to just go to where you're going and you don't want to be stuck in traffic, but then you can't help looking as well.
Exactly.
That's what it's like.
My neck's a bit less rubbery.
Gordon.
Jesus, some of your stuff, some of your work this morning, that one in particular is really.
I'm an artist. I'm here to express myself.
Okay.
And I'll thank you to not criticize my work at such an early time in the morning when I'm psychologically vulnerable. In fact, Gareth, I've had to sit here and listen to you week on week talk about the royal family. And they're fucking nice people, okay? And so I've had enough.
You're out of here. I'm out of here. You guys good.
I actually made myself legit cry there. I'm quite impressed.
Can you
look
imagine?
At you, Meryl Streep?
And scene.
Imagine being so upset that you storm off and then you actually quit your job because of other people who you don't really speak to.
I'm so upset about a family that don't care about me. I'm going to quit my lucrative job.
Yeah, it's like shooting yourself in the foot completely.
James Hetfield ignored my tweet. I'm quitting my job.
I'm quitting my job. It's just madness. All right, so Sia found out some more about Love Island, and we'll get to this in the next hour because it's going to need some unpacking. We're also going to talk about a new kind of surgery. Apparently, you can have your forehead-sized reduced. Yes. No,
have it reduced from a 4-head to a 3-head.
Exactly. There's a lot of people have 5-head.
Or an Endoro, which is when you go past 7.
An Endoro?
An Endoro, when you have a Tony Endoro.
Oh,
where your hairline starts, where the microphone thing, where the headphone thing is.
That's called an Endoro.
Yeah, half and half. Like it's like when you half peel a nachi so that you expose one side. So I don't like. I mean, look, I'm balding at the back noticeably. I'm a balding oak, so I'm not throwing shade on people who are balding. But his hairline starts exactly in the center of the middle of his head, and so it looks like half his head is forehead. Like I would rather have nothing.
Are you sure it's Tony? It's not Peter Endoro?
Peter Endoro. Apologies. I always get that confused.
Tony's got no hair.
But Peter Endoro starts exactly right in the middle of your head, and it just looks as if you have. It just looks as if that's your hairline.
Anything mean about Peter Endoro when he smiles all the time? He's never said anything.
I'm not being mean about him. I'm just saying an Endoro is the word I've had for most of my life for when you have like where your hairline just starts far back and you look bald.
God, it is just not a nice thing to say about Peter Endoro.
I remember watching Peter Endoro doing like
what would Peter Endoro do?
Listen to this.
We're getting bracelets made.
Listen to this. I saw him on TV once. He was announcing the death of someone famous, right? And this person died. I think it was like, I don't know. I'm just going to say a politician. And he did it like this. I swear to God. Like, he goes, so I'm really sorry to have to announce. Smiling. Terribly sad news. But he's smiling with...
It's the worst day ever.
This is really terrible sad news, and I don't know how to say this to you, but X or Y has died, and they're now dead, and they're finished and gone and dead. And it's terrible.
It's a tragic shame. And that's a tragic shame this morning with me, Peter Endoro.
Peter hasn't properly capitalized on what he could be doing. He should have, in these tough lockdown times, commissioned himself to head up, retrenchment conversations in HR.
Write messages of encouragement on his phone.
Hello, Kathy. Thank you very much for your service for 7 years. Yeah. But today, we are letting you go with no retrenchment package.
It's great to work with you, Kathy. And your bosses have brought me in because I've got this really beguiling smile. And I'm going to be the one to say to you, it's all over, Kathy.
But he's a lovely guy. For real, though. He's a sunshiny energy and he's a lovely, positive thing. And the world is better off for having Peter Endoro. I just always noticed that his hairline starts 4 inches too far back.
I'm speaking on behalf of your husband. He has officially filed for divorce, and you aren't getting the house.
Yeah, brilliant. Let's put a proposal together and get it
I've done voiceovers for call centers before, where you're like, press 1 for office reception, press 2 for stock. But he could be like, welcome to Hollard Funeral Services claims. You're claiming for the loss of a loved one. Okay, time to press 1 if you are the bereaved. Press 2 if you yourself have died.
Press 3 if you just called to have me cheer you up with my marvelous tone of voice and my big smile. I'm Peter. All right, guys, we will be back in a second. Central.com.
Finding quick solutions is key to a great economic quarter. Use the Nando's app to order a quarter chicken with any single side for only 49 Rand in just 20 seconds. Nando's. Fire it up. T's and C's apply.
Retrograde motion of the earth, hopes in the hearse, buried in the dirt with the worst and the best. Life's always simple, yet we make it complex. At least this magazine on those you set. Broken bottles bottles of this hollow thoughts left upon the ground. My time, your time, we gotta figure out your time. My time is all, that's what we have now. Lost lands upon the earth is what we wander round.
I don't even know if you can handle it.
Yeah.
All I know is you can have it. I don't even know if you can handle it. All I know is you can have it. I don't even know if you can handle it. All I know is you can have it. I don't even know if you can handle it. All I know is you can have it.
I'm her favorite secret that she keeps. She's here the one that mellows up my G. Make a movie by the eve, put our wildest dreams all on the silver screen.
I don't even know if you can handle it. All I know is you can have it. I don't even know if you can handle it. All I know is you can have it.
The world's apex predators have fearsome reputations, so it's hard to believe that some of them are facing a fight for survival.
In Gansbaai and Valsbaai, white sharks are almost completely disappeared.
Blind Conservation is the story of these endangered predators. In our first episodes, we speak to global experts about the alarming plight of the great white shark.
Each shark that lives out there, one day out of 4 days, it can be killed.
And what you can do to help one of nature's most magnificent creatures survive for future generations. Join me, Spike Ballantyne, and my co-host, Anthony Mederer, for Blind Conservation, available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
cliffcentral.com on a Wednesday morning. We are joined by Gord Laws, Sia Sangweni, and most especially you. You can take part in the conversation, 0797482090, or you can message us directly on this webinar jam program. You can also leave comments for us on YouTube. We're paying attention to all of those at the same time because we're like an octopus. We can do all of that at once. Yeah, Ruth says that she thinks Gordo is completely goofed this morning. He may be, but he's also Gord finds things funny.
Yeah, I get a little carried away.
Even when he's totally sober and in the middle of work, he'll start laughing. That's one of the things I like about Gord.
Thanks, GC. We got my back there.
He doesn't have to be high to have fun.
One of these days, I'm going to tell you that I didn't agree with your approach to a certain topic on the show and had to sort of stand up and say, I don't think that that's fair, Gareth. And then it'll be all over between us. But for now, it's been lovely. And I like how you have my back.
Yeah, you know.
No, I started with the giggles about 10 minutes in. I don't even remember what it was, but it was kind of funny. And I haven't quite recovered since. Now I'm just triggered by anything remotely amusing. So sorry about that, guys. I was broken early.
It was the bunny distraction center.
Yes.
I got to draw that.
Someone who's starting to listen now is like, bunnies did what?
Yeah, you should tune in to the beginning of the show when you get a chance. If you missed that, that was the highlight for me.
By the way, Lenice, who was having dreams about the bunny distraction center, she says in her dreams the bunnies were never destroyed. She only saw them at the gathering point. Yeah,
that's what I wanted to ask. They were on a conveyor belt. Like, why? Were they just running because it's exercise to go in the opposite direction? Do they just chill there and like an abandoned suitcase on it, like come around every now and again?
I was doing interpretation of her dreams because what I think happened next, even though she hasn't got to that part of the dream yet, is that the bunnies get stomped. But we'll leave it alone.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I have a recurring dream, and it's like I haven't had it in a while. So now that I think of it, it's like, well, I haven't had that dream in a while. But throughout my life, I've had it always, and it'll come back eventually. So it's always the same setting. I'm an adult, and it's either university, high school, or primary school. And I've always voluntarily opted to do it again because I wasn't happy with the mark I got, either in standard 5, class 7, or in matric or in varsity. I'm going back, having already passed, to get a better mark. But then I'd go, this shit's going to be so easy, and I've ignored it for the whole year, and now it's like 2 days before the exam, and all I need is to get the classwork so I can read through it, and I can't find someone's books to borrow. And then at the last second, if the dream gets that far, if I complete the dream, I always realize as I'm about to go in the exam and my whole life is collapsing around me because I haven't read the work, that I don't need to do it, and I'm like, I've already got matric, it's fine, I'll just live with my B and go home. And that's been my whole life.
What an incredibly frustrating dream.
Yeah, and as I say, if I watch the whole movie of The Dream and it doesn't get cut off midway, then I always just go, why am I so stressed about this? I don't care about Standard 5. I've done that in 1994. Screw this, I'm going home. Do a Piers, pull a quick Piers and it's over.
No, I'm
pulling a Piers has got to be a thing from now on.
I don't have to sit and listen to this. I'm sorry, I'm out of here. Bye-bye. That's what he said.
I don't think you were fair on Ellen DeGeneres just now, Gareth. You really lay into her sometimes. Maybe give her a break.
Oh, I don't need to hear that. I don't need to put up with your opposing opinion. We had Gilly Apter on yesterday, and she was terrific because she just fought with me about everything, and it was really funny. I enjoy. Listen, I like it when people push back, and I don't know why Piers wants to fight with people on Good Morning Britain, but maybe it's all. Yeah, it could all be just a big show. It could all just be a part of it. I think a lot of what people do these days isn't honest.
Here's a tiny thing that I picked up as well in all of it. That show has about like 5 or 6 people on doing different things. So of course, Piers, and there's a woman who are, excuse me, the main co-host, but then there are also other team members. Operative term in his whole rant is that he says, my show. He says, I'm not going to take being, criticized on my show. And then he walks out. That says everything.
It's not called the Piers Morgan Show. It's Good Morning Britain. So he's got to be careful.
But
Good Morgan Britain.
Good Morgan.
Hey.
It'd be so funny
if he started his own show called Good Morgan Britain, that'll be it. But it's funny to see a great meltdown or awkward moment on air. I laughed last week when Chris Cuomo, the CNN anchor, had to go on air and speak about his brother, or rather just confront the fact that his brother, the governor, has all of these sexual harassment cases. And I thought, this is just odd. He was trying to be teary-eyed and then say, this is very difficult for me. I'm like, no, just move on to the news. Tell us about a bombing somewhere. Tell us about a plane stuck somewhere. Just calm down now.
He also got into trouble last week because he made some joke while he was talking to Don Lemon about being black on the inside.
Yeah.
So it didn't go down well because, people don't really like it when you say that you're black on the inside, but you're not. Here's Chris Cuomo talking. I just want to play you the clip of him.
Piers Morgan is one of the whitest people. Is it Piers Morgan that said he's black on the inside?
No.
No.
Okay, because Piers Morgan makes Casper seem dark, Mediterranean looking by comparison.
So here's Chris Cuomo talking about his brother and how he's going to handle Andrew Cuomo's sexual misconduct allegations on CNN. Remember, he used to bring his brother on in the pandemic to like joke about him with,
Hey.
Yeah. They were doing this whole act, the two of them. But listen to Chris Cuomo talking about his brother, Andrew, and how he's not going to cover this because obviously he says, it's my brother. This is just the crappiest reasoning in the world. But here it is. If you're not going to cover him in the bad times, why cover him in the good?
Before we start tonight, let me say something that I'm sure is very obvious to you who watch my show. And thank you for that. You're straight with me. I'll be straight with you. Obviously, I'm aware of what's going on with my brother. And obviously, I cannot cover it because he is my brother. Now, of course, CNN has to cover it. They have covered it extensively, and they will continue to do so. I have always cared very deeply about these issues, and profoundly so. I just wanted to tell you that. There's a lot of news going on that matters also, so let's get after that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with saying, as an objective journalist, I respect the station and the other colleagues' right to talk about this, but I'm compromised as being too close to the subject. So all the other presenters on the station keep you informed about my brother. I'm going to skip it and go to the sport. I get it.
Why does he sort of speak like he is downloading his words and he's currently buffering?
Right, they probably scripted it because
I buffer sometimes.
Sometimes these
but
things...
he takes a pause in weird places when he speaks.
That's the way he speaks.
I'm O okay with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just
that is how he speaks, though. That's his that's his natural kind of
like
flow.
Jacob Zuma does when he speaks. Commas in places
which,
that.
Can I just? I know we said we were going to get to the forehead surgery and Love Island, and we will in a second. We've got so much on the agenda today, but before we get to that, just a quick thought here on Jacob Zuma appearing at Luthuli House and spending 2 hours. I don't think he actually went. I think it was on video conference. He spoke for 2 hours to the ANC's top 6 or whoever was there. 2 hours, this guy bored them to death about why he can't appear in front of the Zondo Commission. And the ANC clearly are going to let him get away with this. I mean, I don't know. They haven't come out with any statement yet. But imagine being harangued for 2 hours by that man. It's got to be the most horrible punishment available. Speaking like Gord just did now.
Which, person in the public spotlight, like famous person with a public profile on purpose, politician, celebrity, etc., would you least like to listen to do their job of talking about something for 2 hours? I don't want you to burn any bridges here, but there's some painful stuff out there.
What, internationally or locally?
Yeah, it's just people who difficult.
I would hate to listen to Barbara Streisand for 2 hours.
Yeah.
She would be horrendous. Can you imagine?
Or Fran Drescher. Actually, I quite like her.
I kind of like
I kind of like it. Yeah, it's entertaining, so she'd be all right.
I don't know why Cyndi Lauper just came to mind. She has this breathy voice. I've never been able to stomach her in an interview.
Maybe
also, I could listen to William Shatner talk about anything.
Because the Kardashians have that, vocal fry.
Kyle Dunningham. I think it's Kyle Dunningham. It might be Kyle Dunham, the comedian that does such good deepfake impressions, and he does the Kardashians. It's saga.
Those Kardashians, I'd kill myself after 10 minutes. I swear to God, I've never watched one of their shows properly. I've actually
neither. I've skip past them on DSTV years ago when I used to have DSTV, and also a girl I dated would just keep DSTV on, so whatever was on, and you catch glimpses of its existence, but never actually listen to anything.
As scratchy as his voice is, I could listen to Gilbert Gottfried any day.
Oh, that's a hectic one. I couldn't do 2 hours. 10 minutes, very entertaining. 2 hours, no.
No, I could. Because you can't doze off.
Rebellious Ruth has commented with Jeff Dunham. That's correct. Look up a comedian called Jeff Dunham on Instagram. He does impressions. So he'll set up his screen like a.
No, you're wrong. It is
Jeff Dunham is the puppeteer.
Kyle Dunningham. Jeff Dunham's the yes. See, this is why I shouldn't be high on air. But
Ruth, you're wrong, and
that's confusing it with the puppet guy.
Contribution, Ruth. Usually you add value to the show, but this morning really.
I'm blaming Ruth, even though this is my fault. But anyway, Kyle Dunningham on Instagram. Go check him out. It's very funny.
Please, will someone tell me what's going on Love Island? I still haven't seen an episode.
Yes, this is the thing that I'm excited for.
I've got to watch this fucking show. When is it on?
Just not worth it. I tried to watch it over the weekend, and I had recorded it because some of them aren't on catch up and whatnot. So I'd recorded to watch the actual thing.
Yeah.
This particular episode started, there was a 2-minute delay. So it was just a photo and just 2 minutes of no sound. It was just a photo of the beach or the island or something. And I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't at all. So I know it's not really much of a take. But already, we were just the first week into Love Island South Africa. There is a new show that's going to debut soon. They're actually calling for entries. It's called Temptation Island South Africa. What the heck?
Just an entire island of carbs. No. Potato Cove, Latka
So
Bay.
this is the premise of Temptation Island. They are currently looking for 4 couples.
All right.
Who will sign up for the show. And then they'll look for sexy single people who will sign up for the show. And most likely, they will now make sure that one one partner is on the other side of the island, and then the other one is left with a sexy single, and maybe they'll just be in a hot tub, and maybe there'll be copious amounts of liquor, and to see if the person in the relationship will actually like keep in their relationship or they'll cheat. This is the new low we've reached with reality television.
They tried a bad version of this like 12 years ago on like one of the crap locally produced DSTV channels called Vixens. Same idea. And my girlfriend at the time was a vixen, and she went into the show and came out a week and a half later. You know, they're in like they were actually in the Big Brother house, and she came out she went in dating me and came out dating the producer. I actually adopted Blackie Chan from her many years later.
Oh,
good person. Yeah.
Well, good that you got at least the cat. Oh. So, Gord, would you imagine any good coming out of this temptation?
No, and what couple is trying to do? What are you trying to achieve as a couple? It's like, I would just get one of my like close lady friends that I have a good personal relationship with. Okay, we're going to pretend to be a couple. We go on this thing. We know each other, so we can brush up on our trivia and really sell the couple thing. I get like 5 lady friends that would be perfect for this. We ham it up that we're all in love, and then we both just go shag the shit out of everyone and win or lose, spectacularly win or lose according to whatever strategy suits us. But if you're a real couple trying not to shag other people, why would you put yourself in this position? Exactly. You have to, not like by definition, a functional good couple won't do this. It's like having a competition to see who can not murder, and you only invite murderers.
It is the
terrible
perfectly
idea.
Imperfect cross-section of what is wrong with society. People will still enter because there'll be this thing of, I could be famous and I could be known, and then my social media numbers will go up. So best believe that's why couples will enter.
But you'll watch and we'll pay attention, and we'll have conversations like these where we're fascinated by it.
Yeah. I already know what's going to happen. They're going to get couples who are like 5s or 6s, and then they'll get single people who are like 8s and 9s. So anyone in a relationship will look at the supermodel single person and go, oh.
And they must brief the single people like, your job is to bone one of the people in a happy couple.
Yeah, but
that's what you need to
do that. I mean, to me, like, there's nothing more unattractive than trying to get in on someone else's relationship. Like, I just don't think that's sexy. And even if that's your whole purpose, you're being paid to be on this show, it's so tacky and gross. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, but again, we'll rubberneck at it because it's fascinating in its own gross way.
Will we though?
We're doing it now.
No, but here we are. All 3 of us have not yet watched an episode of Love Island.
No, but we're excited to see how shit it's going to be.
All right. Okay.
It's kind of wanting to see a car crash.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I wanted to see it for how crap it's going to be.
Okay. Well, there was the first episode of Love Island. Apparently it was total crap, and none of us even watched that, so we're useless. All right, let's talk about this operation you can get. Some people have a 5 head, which means you get 5 fingers from your eyebrows to your hairline. Some people have a 7 head, which Gord refers to as an Endoro, named after Tony Endoro, whose hair starts about...
Peter.
Sorry, Peter Endoro.
Get our Endoros crossed, and we apologize for that today.
Apologies. We like both of them, by the way.
We like them both.
They're both fantastic people. We're just commenting on where their hairline begins. But I've noticed a lot of women are very self-conscious about where their hairline starts, right?
Yeah.
There are women who are very, very worried about when, if their hair starts here, that's obviously very bad.
I got that friar tuck.
Have you got a friar tuck going?
Yeah, I got that yarmulke jewel. Can you see?
Are you going bald there, Gordo?
That's why I said I'm not throwing shade on Peter. I'm going bald myself. Yeah.
What did you call it? The yarmulke what?
Yeah, the yarmulke.
Oh,
I've got the friar tuck.
Shame. I'm sorry about that, Gordo. That's
you've seen me enough times to know this. You've seen the back of me many times, Gareth. This has been. I've had this since I'm 25. It's just been getting worse.
I've never noticed the top of your head. So is it something that bothers you?
It did when I was like in my late 20s, and it started to go from something I could notice if the light was right to something that my friends were like, "Hey, Gord." But yeah, I don't care. I've got a couple of close friends that are going to tell me when it's time to shave it off, and for now I'm just keeping it short and honest. It's nothing to hide. That's what it is, and I just live my life.
Fair enough.
Short and honest.
Fair enough.
I hate you for your perfect Lego hair. I'm convinced you've been completely bald like Professor X since childhood, Gareth, that you take your hair like a helmet and click it into your head. And then when you sleep, you take it off and put it next to the bed. And that you've got one of those female Lego ports.
Well,
if you put it on backwards, it'll be like you'll have hair over your eyes.
If that was the case, I wouldn't have to go for a bloody haircut today, which I do have to do.
So getting your 5 head reduced to a 4, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, so
Isn't it weird?
How does this work? Because you can't pull someone's hairline forward, right? You can't.
No, you must transplant hair, surely.
No,
you probably can, actually. You probably can. You can, like, especially if the person's not very young, if they're like in their 30s or 40s and their skin has started to be old. Like, I'm not saying people in the 30s are older, so that's when it begins. As long as you've got some wear on it, you could, like, crimp it together and pull out a piece.
They say the best candidate. They say the best candidate for something like this is someone who has a lot of elasticity in your skin, and specifically your scalp and forehead skin. So if it moves around a lot, if you frown and there are a lot of lines, you could be a good candidate for this. They make the incision just across your forehead, just below your hairline, and they take a few centimeters off what you currently have as your forehead. So I heard about this because some model documented it on TikTok. So she's 26 years old and she removed 3 centimeters of her current forehead. And then this is the cringe. 3 centimeters.
Quite a lot. That's...
I don't ask why, but I happen to have that here.
Yeah. Gordo has a ruler. Look at that.
There is 3.
That's substantial. Now put that up on your head. That's quite a lot of distance.
Yeah.
Now move
weird being a ruler / forehead model.
Move it 3 centimeters down from your existing hairline.
Yeah.
That would bring your hairline to a very strange place, Gord. That'd be
That's
very odd.
That's a substantial chunk. Thank you for being our model for this. You were
what a 2-head. This is what a 2-head looks like.
Let me just squint and see. That could work. And then this is the icky and cringy part. Then they essentially take the rest of your scalp and just pull it down and then sew it all back together. So you'll have this line.
So you're always walking like this because you've got full neck from the back.
Your whole head's going to be
like that foreskin joke, I won't say.
Oh, that's funny. That is
so you'll have this awkward line while you're recovering, but hey, if it bothers you,
what a horrible operation.
But look, I mean, if you do have like you awkwardly, far back hairline, especially if you're a lady, where like it's not as conventional to have to just kind of live with baldness. I get it. If there's an operation that can move your hairline, then cool. But can you imagine if this becomes fashionable and people start going all the way to the brows just because they can? Like that's what happens whenever there's a cosmetic surgery. People do it because they can. Calves, asses, lips, more lips. Like for some people, you get it. Like you've had thin lips, you got a complex about it. Now you're happier with fuller lips. But other people, it just becomes like your hobby. I'm convinced someone's gonna make something appalling out of this. Even if it doesn't catch on, someone high profile is gonna do this badly.
I'm fascinated by all of this.
So Harry Markle says, you guys should consider giving yourselves a lie-in and starting the show a bit later in the mornings. I'm surprised you didn't do that during lockdown when everyone else was taking it easy. But fantastic show. Never stop doing it. Otherwise, I might not want to continue living.
Preach it, brother Harry. I've been saying this thing could start at 9 and then I do it every day. For some of you, that would be the worst nightmare ever. But I hate how early it is. What are you people doing up now? Work starts at 8 or 9.
Have we not missed that boat now because we're back on level 1?
I'm afraid so. There's no change. That's not going to happen, guys.
Someone is hearing my voice and feeling my pain, and that's enough to just know that I'm not alone, Harry. Thank you.
Not alone.
By
But
the way,
also-
we do appreciate the name Harry Markle.
Don't you? Yeah, Harry Markle's a great name.
Your Highness, we
The fact
appreciate
that
it.
he used the quote, I just didn't want to live anymore. You know, that's hilarious. That also comes from Meghan. There's a good thing about waking up at 6 a.m. or 5:30 or whenever we all get up to indulge in this together. No, there is. You start your day early. You get a lot more done. Gord.
You know how much more I get done if I've had a 7th and 8th hour of sleep, or a 4th or 5th, as the case may be.
Well,
I'm like, charge me fully if you want the full power of my Android operating system, yo.
Okay, all right. A couple of comments from Carl and Abe about the forehead operation. Carl says it's basically a circumcision for the head. Strange world. Abe says the truth is give you a 2-for-1 special circumcision for both heads. That's a little anti-Semitic, Abe. But I'm guessing
Abe, if you want to let us know, if you're Jewish before you make a Jewish joke. We'll get back to you on whether that was appalling or funny.
Ruth says people who invest in plastic surgery, I don't know if that's the right word for it, invest, but anyway, that shit is for life. And when I'm 60, I may have some work done, so I don't need to use.
For some people, it is a proper investment. Like, get a pair of titties, you can market that stuff.
She says
OnlyFans is real.
When I'm 60, I may have some work done so that I don't need to use my boob as a plug in the bathtub. I borrowed that joke from Rivers.
The visuals of that.
Keep sliding into my DMs, Ruth.
No, that's very good. Yeah. I love that. Would you, I know Sia would you have any plastic surgery done, Gordo?
You know, if I get to where I'm planning to get with this weight thing, I've always been people have been like, why don't you get that flappy ass belly thing sorted when you're in good shape? And I'm like, well, because I can never be 100% sure I'm going to stay in good shape. But if I kept everything off, I've done the longest, I think was 5 or 6 years. If I would do another 5 years again, I'd consider it. But I don't really care. I've never been kicked out of anybody's bed because of it. So I don't know. Like I'm covered in tattoos, some good, some clangers. I love them all. It's just me, you know. Like if I had loads of money and I could just go and do whatever I wanted, I might, if it was going to look legit, get the bald patch sorted out. But just because
if you had the stomach stapling thing done afterwards,
not that the skin, just the skin.
I'm talking about the skin. I don't know what the term is. I just got it wrong.
Yeah,
but you know where they basically tidy up all the loose skin. Now, what if you did that and then you suddenly started eating a lot?
Absolutely fucked. I would have been if I did it. I mean, your skin would tear. You'd need skin grafts, plastic surgery, because that skin's got no elasticity. And that's exactly why I'm like, thank God. But things are going differently now. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when there's more to talk about. But that I'd consider. But if I was just wealthy and needed to spend money on something to make myself feel a bit prettier, I'd get the hair sorted out. But that's like if I was trying to think of something. I don't really.
I've never really loved my nose, but I don't think it's worth changing. I haven't got other issues, but I do think, like, as you get older, you could see Joe Biden has had work done, right? I mean, you can tell that
What makes you say that?
He's very tight.
Stephen Colbert does such a good impression of him.
I haven't seen it. I'll take a look.
I can't even do an impression of the impression, but it's solid. You should check it out.
the impression of the impression. There's good work, there's bad work, but if it works for you, it works for you. Now, I still think about Sharon Osbourne, who I think has been the picture of plastic surgery for years now, and how she explained what she once did to her legs, which was lift up part of her thigh to make it less cellulite and more firm.
That makes sense.
And all they basically did was take a strip off, a few centimeters, inches, whatever, a certain chunk of her thigh off, and then they pulled the rest of the thigh together like a sock. And that was the term that God was just like, and then we just pulled it up like a sock.
Pulling your flesh up like a sock.
She said, pulling it up. So scared it would burst. I would be so terrified to sit down, to stand up, to run. walk.
That was the thing. She said she can go under and she doesn't care about surgery or fear of going under. It was the recuperation, because you essentially can't bend your legs.
The sock thing has gone right
you've
through my soul. I got curls into my cellular membranes there.
So I'm sure you're on bed rest, but then think about having to go to the loo. So how do you do that? You need to bend. Just thinking about that. Just
raindrops and mittens and soft fluffy kittens, brown paper packages tied up with string. I'm just pulling myself out, guys. Give me a second. I went into the cold dark.
That really did traumatize you, huh?
I just wait when I'm even talking about, like, I just get proper cold shudders, the cuttiness and the peeliness of it all.
Yes.
Like the flayings in Game of Thrones, I almost didn't make it past that. Like, I made it past Reek and his Willie. I got through that, but the flayings, I couldn't. Like, people being skinned, even discussing it is hurting me. Let's please move along.
Well, we're going to change subject in a very dramatic fashion, because something we've spoken about a couple of times on the show is autism. And it's not something I understand very well. The only thing I really know about it is one of my best friends is he and his wife, they live in Texas, and he has an autistic kid who's on the spectrum somewhere. And I've met the kid a number of times, and for all intents and purposes, I wouldn't know unless they told me that there was anything wrong, except that he's, socially a little bit awkward. But then, for God's sake, so was I when I was a kid. And I'm sure many of us can remember occasions where we were awkward around adults, or where we didn't necessarily make friends very easily, or we struggled to communicate effectively. So it's hard for me to figure exactly how this autism thing works. So we're going to speak to someone called Ilana just now. She's the author of a book called Saving My Sons. It's a journey with autism. And we're going to speak to her because she's also the Star Academy's managing director. And I just want to know how it all works, so that I don't sound like a complete ignoramus around people who are dealing with autism in their families. At the moment, I'm very careful, and I'm sure you are too, because I don't want to say anything that sounds stupid or offensive or inconsiderate, indelicate about this thing. Because I don't know, sometimes you've got a very, very light, to put it again, I don't even know what the words are to be used here, but you've got a light form of autism with some people.
So you some more severe cases than others, and you don't understand how that works.
And really, apart from this friend of mine's kid and Rain Man, I don't know anything about autism.
So essentially, you're saying that there's a sensitive and complicated scientific topic that you don't know enough to feel informed enough about to hold the conversation. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to inform the crap out of yourself now by getting someone who really knows the topic to explain it to you. That sounds almost like informing yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a healthy thing to do, right?
Yeah, you could develop a bunch of opinions first. I mean, that's the standard practice, and then find someone who already agrees with you to back them up. But talking to an expert is a pretty good approach too.
Well, apparently in South Africa, 1 in 54 children is diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, ASD. That's quite a big number, 1 in 54. We were talking about rare diseases yesterday, and we had a really interesting conversation about some of these very, very particular and peculiar diseases. There are like 4,000 of them, and the number of people suffering from them at any given time can be anywhere between like one person in the whole of South Africa who has one of them and like 500. But it's still bizarre. I mean, here we've got 1 in 54 kids who's diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So let's talk to Ilana Gerschlowitz, who is the author of Saving My Sons. Hey Ilana, how are you?
Good morning, Gareth. Wonderful to be here today.
Yeah, nice to see you. So listen, I'm so scared to even talk about autism because it's such a sensitive subject, and I know I'm not informed. And Gord and I were just joking now that because we know so little, we just don't even talk about it. You've got one son who's got autism?
Correct. And I'm so glad that you made that comment. It is a very broad topic, and there are many views around the spectrum. And I think there are many voices that represent the spectrum. So let's just say to your listeners today, I'm the mother of a severely autistic son who's 18 years old. And I'm speaking on autism, representing that voice.
Okay.
We have so many voices on autism, and we really respect all of them.
All right, but Ilana, the fact is, like, I don't know what severely autistic means. I know if someone is cripple. I mean, I don't even think that word's acceptable anymore. But you know if someone's lame, right? Like they can't move their legs, or if they're quadriplegic or paraplegic. You know if someone's got sinus problems. You know if someone's got one eye. But how do I even know if someone's got autism, and how do I know how to, how to interpret that? Like, how did you figure out that your son had autism, and what age was he when you did?
Fantastic question. So autism is a spectrum. On the one end of the spectrum, we can have a young child who cannot speak at all and isn't reaching their milestones. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we can have a child or an adult who can communicate and function, but they have social deficits. So really, autism is a spectrum. How I identified autism in my son, who's now 18, when he was 2 years old, he didn't reach his milestones. He wasn't babbling on time. He wasn't following our receptive commands. And so there are a list of red flags to autism. And that's why I'm so happy that we're talking about this today, with 2 April being World Autism Awareness Day. We want to make sure that parents understand what are the red flags to autism.
What is the difference, though, between a kid who's not reaching their milestones because they're just deficient, like they've mentally, intellectually disabled, let's say, or they haven't had enough proper resources, like they didn't get enough food when their brain was developing or whatever, and then autism, which is obviously very different to those two? How do we know the difference?
I'm so glad you raised that, because the red flags to autism are very specific. So in a young developing child, what are we going to look for? Is the child making eye contact? Are they responding to their name? Can they imitate? Are they developing vocal speech? Are they playing appropriately with their toys? And then we also see inappropriate behaviors from an autistic child, which will be, for example, they'll flap their hands, they'll walk on their toes. So when we look at whether or not a child is presenting with autism, we're going to look at, are they presenting with repetitive behaviors, delayed language, social deficits? There are criteria listed in those 3 domains, and it's very clear if the child does or does not have autism. Usually we can pick that up already at 18 months. 18-month-old baby needs to be imitating their parents, and they need to be pointing. They need to have all those prerequisite skills to language. I hear what you're saying. Can the child just possibly be delayed? We don't want to just alarm parents raising young children. It is possible, but the developmental milestones are there for a reason. And if parents pick up any extraordinary behavior, like a fussy eater, excessive tantruming, not playing appropriately with toys, the glaring red flags, they must discuss with their pediatrician.
Because you mentioned standing on toes and flapping of hands, and I mean, I don't have kids of my own, but I've got nieces, and I mean, I know when kids are little, perfectly ordinary kids will do that kind of thing from time to time. So there's got to be a distinction between red flags and normal behavior that parents don't have to be concerned about.
You're correct. A young baby will flap their hands, but once they start getting to 18 months, 2 years, if they get excited about something, they shouldn't flap their hands. They should say wow or yay or look at that. So they should start moving to vocal speech. So in a very young infant of a year or 12 months, we can expect some flapping, walking on toes now and again, or because they're walking on the grass and it's tickling their feet, fine. But the parents will know, because the parents will notice that I'd say at least 60 to 70% of the day, they're actually walking on their toes. So it really is going to be glaring. It's going to be, the parents are going to think something's up.
I don't know how to tell if someone's autistic later on in life, though. So with your son who's 18 now, what can and can't he do? How would he be distinct from someone else of his age?
He looks physically normal. So children with autism look physically normal. Right. And that's also why I'm so happy that we're talking about this today, because parents will be raising a typical child and they look physically normal and then they don't develop on time, and we start seeing these red flags, and the parents think, but I've got a physically, my child looks perfect, he's got perfect features, everything's fine, his gross motor's fine. How can my child have autism? So how does my 18-year-old present? Gareth, can you imagine an 18-year-old who's non-vocal, who can't speak, who can't vocally express themselves to say, I want water, where they want to go? So many children with autism now are trapped, and they are representing as a child who cannot express their needs, asked to go to the bathroom, express emotion. I'm scared, I'm hungry, where's my daddy? So through the right treatments, my 18-year-old has become a functional and independent adult, even though he is the most profoundly autistic child. He is very severe on the spectrum, but through the right treatment, he actually communicates via an iPad where he can appropriately communicate his needs.
So is it a, I need to understand what causes this. Is it some kind of addling of the brain? Is it some sort of malfunctioning of the brain, or is it a social problem, as in a nervousness or an anxiety that's just so profound that they can't communicate? How does it manifest, and what are these treatments you're talking about for autism?
How does it manifest? We have a genetic vulnerability, and then we have environmental triggers that express the genetics. So what are those triggers? The triggers are the food we're eating, the water we're breathing, infection, toxicity. When you look at the studies coming from America, you know, the stats on autism in America, CDC reported last year, 1 in 54 in America. Why? Why? They put it down to, according to my research, toxicity. So that child's genetically more vulnerable to toxins. They struggle to detoxify. Autism is actually an inflammation. There is a very big gut-brain connection. And Gareth, the gut-brain connection in autism is now undeniable. So how do we treat autism? We start with nutrition. We start with correcting nutritional deficiencies, removing food allergies, supporting the immune system, reducing inflammation. So that's what I'm saying now is quite, wow, you know, contrary to old school of thought, which will be prescribing psychiatric medication, coupled with the right medical intervention. We do want the children and the individuals on the spectrum to have access to what we call applied behavior analysis, ABA. ABA is the only evidence-based treatment for children on the spectrum. In America, the US Surgeon General years ago already said, look, this is a medical necessity. In South Africa, this methodology has not yet received recognition. But I want to stress again, if you've seen one individual on the spectrum, you've seen one individual on the spectrum. See, I'm speaking to you about my severely autistic son. You can have...
It's not true for everybody else on the spectrum. No, I understand that. So, I mean, you've really helped me to get a very basic understanding here, but there's still a lot that I don't entirely understand. Is your son or any other severely autistic person, are they able to do normal day-to-day things? I mean, do you think he's ever going to be able to get a job, for example? Can severely autistic people, even if they manage to get functional and they can communicate, can they do work? I mean, can they go and work in a company? Can they do gardening? Can they do basic things?
I love your question. With the right treatments, and my message to parents today is to never give up hope, because you never need to give up on your child's functionality and independence. So what does my son's picture look like today? He's 18 years old. Every morning he works with a chef in a den, and he has learned to make pizza, hamburgers, hot dogs. He cooks, he makes soups. So, you know, they sell their produce. So yes, my son does have a job, but with a certain amount of supervision. He's not entirely independent, His health is also compromised. Children with autism who are like my son can be very severely ill. So we do on a daily basis have to monitor his health. Some children on the spectrum can have seizures. So that doesn't look very pretty from my vantage point as a parent when, I see my son having a seizure. It's frightening. Not every child on the spectrum will have seizures, but that is the worst picture. But then, Gareth, just to tell you quickly, I have 3 boys. My youngest, who's now 8, he was also diagnosed with autism before 2. And today he's 8 years old. He's in grade 3. He's in a mainstream school. He had best outcomes, and he lost his diagnosis of autism.
Wow. What about, people who you say there's a genetic component? Are there people who have all their kids who are autistic? I mean, listen, just to go back to the job thing for a second. So, I mean, I don't have any people in my business who have special needs, and they're already a handful. I mean, people like Sia, for example.
Hey.
I'm not going to be supervising him. Is it hard to find people who will employ and who will take the trouble and the time that is required here to help an autistic person to fit into society, to have meaning and purpose, and to have something to do every day?
Gareth, it is extremely difficult for parents to achieve this. And I feel for you about Sia, hey? I feel for you.
Major problem.
I'm with you.
No one's allowed being mean to Sia. Inappropriately,
so, Gareth,
especially.
In America, and I know this because my organization is affiliated to an American organization. And in America, a child like my son would get an agent who would be advocating for him to get a job. So not only in South Africa are we also struggling with inclusive education, where children on the spectrum or with the learning challenge are allowed the opportunity to be included in the mainstream. When we do have children who are on various ends of the spectrum, we are struggling very much in South Africa to have people advocate for them and for parents to get opportunity for them. I know that it's so difficult to understand the spectrum, so let's just try and summarize that again. In a young developing child, we want to see them hitting those milestones. You can have a child who's 5 or 7 years old who's not capable of vocal speech. How can that be? Do you have any idea what the parents go through? I speak to parents who are heartbroken and crying on a daily basis. The moms, they say, Ilana, I just want to hear my child's voice. Children on the spectrum don't learn to do those things that other children just typically learn.
Do they have any superpowers? Like we watched Rain Man when we were kids. It was this movie in the 80s where Dustin Hoffman was able to card count, and he was just a maths machine. And we hear that a lot of these autistic kids have extremely high IQs, but that they just can't communicate properly. So it's almost like being a genius, but you're trapped in your own head. Is that something that you've discovered with other people or with your own son, that they have these abilities, but they're just hard to use?
It's very rare, Gareth. 1 in a million. I've seen it. I've been studying autism for the last 17 years because of my son, and it's a myth. The Rain Man idea, that's very, very unusual. That's very, very rare. My organization on a daily basis, we're getting emails, we're getting calls. I'm so scared, my child, let me paint a picture for you. Parents are raising children who are now on the spectrum. We're seeing things that the child's not sleeping, the child's not eating, they're refusing to eat, they're very fussy eaters. And this is the majority of children. They're struggling to toilet train. Now you try this, parents are trying to put food on the table. Coronavirus, we've got an economic crisis. People don't have food security. Now you're faced with an autistic child where you're struggling they're not sleeping, which means you're not sleeping. You know, they're not talking and communicating. It's not a pretty picture. They're fussy eaters. They can be 90% of them. That's why when we talk about treatment, we want to really treat the gut-brain connection. We can talk more about that, but it's not a pretty picture, Gareth. But then again, if you've seen one individual on the spectrum, you've seen one individual on the spectrum. Let's talk about those children who are completely functional. They are at school, but they're struggling to make friends. They're struggling to establish and maintain friendships. You can have young adults in a working place environment. They're fully functional. They could cope with a university degree, but they're eccentric. They've got limited interests. They don't pick up social cues.
And I mean, because they don't pick up social cues, there's a huge amount of pressure on people these days to not say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. Now, if you have autism, are people understanding? Is that an excuse that flies with most people? Like if you say, you know, if I was standing at the coffee machine with Gord and I had autism and I said to him, Jesus, you're fat. But because I've got autism, that's just something that spat out of my head, right? And
it would either be because you had autism or you're just a massive dick, which is the real reason you say something like that. But I mean, yes, if I understood you to have autism, I would be okay with it. I'd be okay with it in general. But I take your point.
I could say I had autism.
Yeah, and if I didn't think you're lying, I know you're actually just a dick, I'd be okay with it.
But I mean, is this an excuse that people accept, Ilana?
Gareth, I've had many old ladies in the queue at Pick and Pay want to attack me with their handbag, where I've had to duck a couple of times for standing in the, you know, there's a queue at Pick and Pay. It's like it's for senior citizens that I see now they've added and the disabled. So my 18-year-old looks typically normal, but I'll go stand in that queue. And then the old ladies glare at me and they're like, wow, you're standing here. And sometimes I feel like, don't worry, in 2 minutes when my son has a massive meltdown at 18 because he's waiting too long in this queue, you'll see why I'm standing here. So people don't understand. It gets very heated, Gareth. There's a lot of bullying that goes on around autism because there's so many different perspectives on autism. I honestly feel, having, like I said, researched this and lived through this for 17 years, that we actually need a new definition, because the autism is defined in terms of the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual. And because autism is now such a spectrum,
is there a test you can do? Is there like some kind of test that can show you where you are on that spectrum?
Yes, there's one test called the ADOS test. So yes, absolutely, there's tests. Like I said, we can look at the red flags. We can see if your child is actually got the criteria for the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual. But Gareth, the problem is that there's a very strong voice on autism that feel, why do they want to change me? Why do they want to fix this? I'm allowed to be me, you know, and I hear these people. I respect these people so much. In fact, I wish there wouldn't be so much debate, because I'd love to learn more from them. But I think we need a split on the spectrum. This group of people get very upset with parents like me who go, I want my child to talk. I want to change this. I want to fix him. I want him to be accepted by society. Yeah. So there's a lot of controversy. I'm sure you've heard about the whole controversy around the Sia movie as well. So yeah, a lot of debate going on.
Jesus, sounds so. It really is complicated. I wonder what parents. Is there a place? Is there an organization? You know, you part of some kind of society where people who have autistic kids or think they might have autism themselves, that they can.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Something. Sorry, Gareth. Related in that, you know, there's a huge population of society don't have access to the medical care or even the information. I mean, we are obviously have a lot of information access, and we're informing ourselves because we don't know the basics of this. So, you know, where would people who have no idea about this but are hearing red flags, or, you know, perhaps people without access to privilege, etc., can actually go and find out about this?
Use your words, Gord. You're sounding like you're autistic, fans.
Well, that's okay if I am.
Okay, so there's actually a few places that people can go. So first of all, if parents are concerned about the young developing child, you know, I wrote a book. It's called Saving My Son's Journey with Autism, and it is available at all bookstores and online. So the red flags to autism, all the criteria for the DSM-5 is at the back of this book. And I'll say to parents, take this, and or you can just merely access the DSM-5 criteria online, the red flags online, and you can take that to your pediatrician. Book an hour appointment and, you know, talk it over, because Gareth, what happens is a lot of parents struggle to get an appointment with a neurologist or a developmental specialist, and then the child is, and the parents are in limbo for 6 months, a year. You know, early intervention is key. The sooner the child can get the right treatments, the better their prognosis is going to be. We don't have time to sit on this, so get those red flags to autism. It's available online as well. Take that to your pediatrician, talk it over, and let them help you with the diagnosis. Then I have a Facebook group for parents who want parent support. If you just go to Facebook and you look for Autism Now What, you will find that. And then, you know, we have an outreach program, and that is called actually our Yellow Canaries outreach program. If you Google that, if you go to our website, we do, you can click on Yellow Canaries and you can apply to our outreach program. We try and help as best as possible. That's why I'm so happy that we're talking about this today. April, World Autism Awareness Month coming up. Gareth, you're shining a light on autism, creating awareness. What do we need? Parents need access to medical doctors who can make the diagnosis. They need access to the right educational intervention. They need access to doctors who can help them.
Like, what happened before we knew this stuff? You know, these kids would just be treated like idiots. They would have been, you know, probably locked in a back room of a house in the medieval times and just ignored, or people would be embarrassed about them. You know, they'd leave them out in the wild or something. I wonder, because Tracy says here, not to mention the sensitivity to certain sounds, textures, light, environmental influence, the need to often repeat certain behaviors. I mean, in the days before we understood this stuff, we would have been very cruel to these people.
Gareth, it's still happening. The cruelty is still happening. South Africa doesn't have the resources. We're faced with COVID. Where's the resources for autism? It's at the bottom of the list. And so what you describe is still happening. A lot. There are being, and you see, you know, you said to me, describe autism. So let me tell you, Gareth, that when you're raising a child, and I love Tracy's comments, because, you know, when that child is sensitive to sound and is sensitive to light and is inflexible, so that means that they don't transition easily. It's very difficult for parents to take these children to church, to synagogue, to the shops. So you become trapped. Your world becomes very, very small.
I mean, it must be so hard for the parents.
It's devastating for the parents. It's absolutely devastating for the parents, because, okay, get this. If you can't speak, Gareth, what are you going to do? You're going to bite, you're going to spit, you're going to kick, you're going to tantrum. So a 2-year-old is doing that, right? 3 years old. I've got a little 3-year-old that we're working with currently. She bangs her head on the floor to communicate that we have to help her, that she doesn't injure herself. We have to pad the room, and we're teaching her to not communicate that way and to have a voice. So these children, you know, really need the right interventions.
My God. All right. Well, listen, we're out of time for this morning, but you've given me a hell of a lot to think about, and it is a fascinating area of you know, of treatment and care, and you know, even these tests are amazing. I've got to find out more about those too. But thank you, and well done for writing the book. I mean, it's important that we start making people aware of this stuff, even if they're not personally affected by it. You know, the 1 in 54, and it may be more or less in this country, depending. But if people aren't aware of this stuff, then it's very hard for them to be sensitive to it and to say the right things, because you also don't need extra pressure piled on by society, right?
Gareth, you have no idea how much I appreciate that we could have the opportunity to speak about autism today. I wrote the book because the autism tsunami is headed to South Africa. I call on all medical professionals, psychiatrists, psychologists, occupational therapists.
What do you mean autism tsunami? What do you mean by that?
I don't think our planet, including South Africa, is realizing the stats, the numbers of children that are being diagnosed and that are struggling with this diagnosis and that need treatment. I don't think our medical professionals are actually aware.
Sure. All right. Well, there we go. Hopefully people be a little more empathetic now when they meet the parents of or the kids who have or, relatives who've got something on the spectrum, because it sounds very, very difficult to deal with. Listen, lots of good things, and well done on the book, and we'll hopefully catch up with you again soon.
Thank you so much. My message is one of hope to parents. Never, ever give up. Autism means game on, not game over. And to all the voices out there representing the autism spectrum, please know that we respect all of you and we appreciate all of you. There's no just one voice on autism.
Yeah, you see, you even have to treat them with kid gloves here because they could tantrum. No, I hear you. I got you, Ilana. Thank you so much. Ilana,
thank you,
thanks, Ilana.
The author of Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism, and Ilana Gerschlowitz. If you want to know more, you can find out on all the websites that she mentioned. And hopefully you get some help if this is something that you're dealing with every day. Wow.
Oh. Chewy, heavy stuff.
Well, it is, but it's also
necessary stuff.
I completely agree, but it's not easy going.
It's hard to figure.
And it's also, you don't know what to ask, and misnomers like the Rain Man thing. I've also always wondered about that. Yeah, it's a heavy one.
Maybe one of us is somewhere on the spectrum.
I'm pretty convinced I'm somewhere on some sort of spectrum. I'm definitely not what you would call functionally normal, but I'm very extroverted and not communication challenged at all. That's like the one thing I'm good at is communicating, whether it's writing, talking, making a story, jokes, above average-ish.
Oh, well, as Ruth points out, if it's 1 in 54, it's worse than coronavirus. More people are affected by this than coronavirus. It's a good point. Anyway, that's all we got time for today, peeps. Have a happy day.
Revenue. So what
Think
now?
happy thoughts.
Tonight?
Yes, Sia, thank you for reminding me. We've got our show this evening. You must watch it because Trevor Gumbi makes a star appearance along with Celeste.
He's very, very good.
Both of them are terrific. You can catch them tonight with all the outrage that you can expect Trevor to throw in there. So Trevor Gumbi, Celeste, and Vinnie Lingham live from Silicon Valley this evening. So you don't want to miss that. All on ENCA, that's channel 403, 8:30 tonight. Have a good day.